And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen. Fairy tales. Growing up as a kid, I always loved fairy tales. I hoped that I would one day meet a prince that would sweep me off my feet and take care of all the bills and everything so I wouldn't have to lift a finger. That came true for me. I had such a good life, and I messed it up because I wanted a few minutes of fun. I cheated on someone who cared about me so much and tried so hard for me. I know you're probably going to be wondering what I'm rambling about, so I apologize. I'm going to start from the beginning so you understand me. I cheated on my husband with his bodyguard, and of course, karma came back for me. My husband absolutely destroyed me in court, and I got nothing. Now I'm back to square one. I fought so hard to leave the slums, and I honestly cannot believe that I am back here again, struggling and living from hand to mouth and surviving on food stamps. My name is Melissa, and I am a 29-year-old woman. I was married to Justin, a 29-year-old man. We live in the U.S., and we were married for about a year. We have 2 children, twins who I'll call 7 and Light for the sake of privacy. They're both 8-year-old, and I love them immensely, but they've always been more attached to their dad. I remember when I first met Justin, and it was at his grandfather's birthday. I was 19 on the verge of becoming 20. Entering that stunning place, I was blown away. My dad worked as a driver for Justin's family, and he got this unexpected invite to Justin's grandpa's big birthday bash. The whole thing was super fancy, with everything dripping in luxury. Looking around at all the fancy stuff, that's when I spotted Justin. He wasn't hard to notice, dressed to the nines and practically radiating wealth vibes. As everyone mixed and mingled, here comes Justin, strolling over in his fancy clothes. I was honestly shocked. Someone from his world talking to someone like me with my background? Surrounded by people clamoring for his attention, he went out of his way to chat with a girl like me from a less well-off family. His move felt real, a bit of kindness in a sea of extravagance. Back then, I had no clue that this moment was just the start of something way beyond our different lives. As the night went on, Justin's friendly vibe pulled me in even more. Even though everything around us was super fancy, he seemed actually interested in getting to know me. We maneuvered through the crowd of dressed-up folks, and he led me outside, away from all the bright lights of the party. Underneath the huge night sky, Justin started talking about stars, making it feel like they were old pals. It was kind of surreal, just standing there in the quiet, far from all the fancy stuff going on inside. Surprisingly, Justin, who you'd think would be all high and mighty, decided to give me a crash course on how to act all proper. He could tell I was feeling a bit awkward in this world of rich people, so he took the time to teach me how to handle myself. From eating at a fancy table to chatting without making a fool of myself, Justin wanted to make sure I didn't stick out like a sore thumb. While he shared his tips, I couldn't help but appreciate how genuine he was in trying to bridge the gap between our lives. That night was way beyond what I could have imagined. Not just because of all the fancy stuff, but because I unexpectedly connected with someone who looked past our different backgrounds. As I was about to leave the fancy birthday party, Justin smoothly asked for my number, saying he'd keep in touch. A few days later, he messaged me, asking if I wanted to go out. I was curious, but a bit cautious, wondering what he was up to. When we met up, Justin explained he just wanted to be friends. I agreed, and our first hangout was at this super posh restaurant, way fancier than any place I'd been. The fancy vibes were a bit overwhelming. During the night, we chatted about what we liked and didn't like, and Justin, being the friendly guy he is, shared more tips on how to handle fancy situations. It was kind of funny, but he wanted to make sure I didn't feel out of place. Despite the swanky setting, we connected over real conversations and shared experiences. I was impressed not just by the fancy stuff, but by how Justin tried to make our worlds meet. It turned out to be a night filled with laughs, learning, and unexpected friendship. I immensely enjoyed it. On our second date, Justin had this idea that since he'd already shown me his fancy world, I should show him what it's like in my neck of the woods. So we spent the day chowing down on street food and doing all sorts of things that I was pretty sure he'd never be caught dead doing because he's so posh. It was a riot seeing his face trying out street eats, stuff way different from his usual high-class meals. We hit up lively markets, did some random activities, and Justin found himself in situations that were far from his usual polished routine. The whole day turned into a mix of laughs and spontaneous experiences. One highlight was me teaching him how to skate. Picture this fancy guy wobbling around, determined to get the hang of it. Hilarious and kinda cute, to be honest. It felt like we were breaking out of our usual routines, finding joy in the simple stuff. By the end of our day, we'd shared a bunch of laughs and got to understand each other a bit more. Our journey from that fancy party to officially dating happened crazy fast. Like, seriously wild. A guy from the rich side and a girl from the not-so-rich side getting together? Who saw that coming? But love does this funny thing where it doesn't care about backgrounds. And that's exactly what happened with Justin and me. Sure, his parents weren't thrilled about us being a thing. Our different backgrounds didn't sit right with them, given their high-class status. But despite their concerns, there wasn't much they could do to change the fact that Justin loved me, and I loved him right back. Our relationship turned into a roller coaster of emotions, from the excitement of being with someone so different to dealing with the challenges of our totally opposite worlds. Even though Justin's parents weren't exactly on board, our connection was real and strong. It wasn't about money or where we came from. It was about two people who genuinely cared for each other, ready to face the complications that came with our different backgrounds. Less than a year into our relationship, Justin and I found ourselves facing an unexpected twist. I was pregnant. It hit us like a ton of bricks, and the whole situation felt surreal. I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions, feeling a bit crazy and not knowing what to do. One day I just broke down. I was scared and had this nagging fear that Justin might bail on me. But he didn't. Picture this, me in tears in the bathroom, and Justin walks in, genuinely concerned. When he found out it was because I discovered I was pregnant, he didn't freak out. Instead, he laughed a little, gave me some words of encouragement, and reassured me that we'd face it together. In that vulnerable moment, Justin's support became a lifeline. We were scared, no doubt about it. Becoming first-time parents is no joke, but the fear didn't matter because we were in it together. Justin, driven by his own experiences of emotional absence from his parents, wanted to break that cycle. He was determined to be there for our kids in ways his parents hadn't been for him. Of course, when his parents found out about the pregnancy, they weren't exactly thrilled. They accused me of trapping Justin, but he didn't let their negativity get to him. When our twins, Seven and Light, finally arrived, it was a mix of joy and chaos. Early parenthood hit us hard sleepless nights, non-stop diaper changes, and a constant juggling act. But holding our little ones made it all worthwhile. Let's be real, keeping up with two tiny humans wasn't a walk in the park. Thankfully, Justin's parents stepped in to help. Despite their initial hesitations about me, they couldn't resist falling for their grandkids. Their support became a lifeline during those exhausting days when coffee was our best friend. It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. Parenting brought its own set of challenges, and trying to figure it all out with limited sleep was tough. But having Justin's parents around, ready to lend a hand and share their know-how, made a world of difference. As Seven and Light grew, Justin's parents stayed involved, becoming a big part of their lives. Despite the rocky start, the love they had for their grandkids helped us a lot. Jump ahead a few years, and the twins were growing up fast, almost hitting 6. I was getting closer to 28, same as Justin. Life had changed a lot since those early days. Justin had been a rock star partner and dad. He didn't just lift me out of the tough times, he took care of everything. Bills, responsibilities, you name it. Even though I had a solid education, I hadn't jumped into a job. Instead, I embraced being a full-time mom while Justin held down the fort. Getting used to the perks of a comfortable life took some time, but Justin's support made the whole transition smoother. I went from struggling to pay the bills to having some room to breathe. Justin must have decided that it was finally time to pop the question, because he took me out of a picnic and proposed to me. I was ecstatic and happy, even though I loved marriages. I had never really pushed for Justin to pop the question because I knew it was something that took time. Justin and I were all in for planning our wedding, and the kids, Seven and Light, were over the moon about it. Their excitement added a special touch to the whole process. But not gonna lie, things got a bit tricky with Justin's parents. Despite the years gone by, they still held a grudge. They weren't exactly thrilled about me, calling me a gold digger and all that. When they heard about our wedding plans, they were pretty mad. Eventually, though, they simmered down a bit. Maybe the sight of us as a family helped. My parents, on the other hand, were all for it. They liked Justin, saw the love we had, and were totally on board. Their support made the wedding planning way smoother. At first, Justin and I imagined a simple wedding, low-key and cozy. But his parents had different ideas. Being all about status, they insisted on something big. So we landed on a compromise, a destination wedding. Planning that shindig was a whole adventure. We had to find a spot that pleased Justin's parents, but still felt right for us. The venue, the guest list, and all those cultural bits needed careful thought. When it came to our bachelor and bachelorette parties, we were on the same page. Separate parties, no craziness. We'd seen some friends go all out on their last night of freedom, and we wanted to keep it in check. Justin's party had the kids around, so no wild stuff there. He's a loyal guy, and the idea of risking our relationship for a night of chaos didn't sit well with him. Plus, with Seven and Light in the mix, he knew they'd spill the beans on anything off-kilter. For my bachelorette party, things took a different turn. Since we didn't have daughters and Justin was a bit protective, he suggested taking his male bodyguard along. At first, I thought it was a bit odd and checked in with the bridesmaids. But since our plan was more about girly fun and far from anything wild, we figured it'd be fine, or so we thought. So there we were with Marco, Justin's tall and good-looking bodyguard, who, despite looking like a model, was known for being more than just eye candy. He could handle his security gig like a pro. We kicked off my bachelorette's party early in the day. We started with the usual stuff: spa time, a bit of shopping, just some regular girl fun. It was a great day, with a few drinks thrown into the mix. But as the night rolled in, the girls and I, carried away by the idea that it was our last night of freedom, thought, why not spice things up a bit? Yeah, looking back, I can admit it was a bit of a silly move. But in the moment, excitement and a couple of drinks got the better of me. Now I had this weird belief that promising not to cheat on Justin was some sort of magical shield against doing anything foolish. So, in this slightly tipsy state, the girls and I cooked up a plan to hit a strip club. The catch? We couldn't ditch Marco, our ever-watchful bodyguard. So, in a playful moment, we made him swear to keep our little adventure a secret from Justin. Marco, finding it amusing, went along with it and promised to zip his lips. Off we went to the strip club, chasing a bit of spontaneity on what was supposed to be a night celebrating the upcoming wedding. In the middle of the strip club fun, we decided to amp it up and booked a private room. We kicked off keeping things chill, just soaking in the vibe. But as the drinks kept coming, we all started letting loose. In the midst of the party, I couldn't help but notice Marco more. He was looking extra handsome, and this sneaky thought crossed my mind. Would he spill the beans to Justin if something went down? At first, I tried to shake off those thoughts, blaming it on the booze messing with my head. But as the night rolled on and the alcohol took over, those reservations faded away. In the heat of the moment, I found myself kissing Marco. It was a slip, a decision I'd later regret, but in the haze of the night, I suggested we continue later, acknowledging that I'd crossed a line. After the strip club adventure, we headed back to the hotel. The reality of what happened hit me, and my earlier promises felt like a distant memory. Back in the hotel room, things took another unexpected turn. Marco sneaked in, and lines that should have stayed put got crossed. What followed was an intimate encounter, a result of choices made under the influence and the thrill of the moment. The morning after that crazy night, I was hit with a huge wave of horror. The truth smacked me. I'd messed up big time, cheated on Justin, and broken his trust. The guilt weighed on me, and I was drowning in questions. What was I going to do? How could I face Justin, the guy I was about to marry? At first, I freaked out about Justin finding out. I figured my friends were just as hammered as me and probably wouldn't remember much. Plus, Justin didn't really like my friends, so I was banking on him not taking their word for anything. In a twisted way, I tried convincing myself that the messed up details of that night would fade away in a boozy blur. Oddly enough, Marco, not as bothered as I was, started spinning this story that it wasn't entirely our fault. He downplayed the whole mess, blaming it on the mix of booze and spontaneity. Call it stupidity or whatever. But somehow, I started buying into his excuses. It was a twisted way to cope, a messed-up justification for something that should have never gone down. As the wedding date inched closer, panic set in. The idea of confessing to Justin seemed impossible. Spilling the beans about cheating right before our vows? No way. I couldn't bring myself to wreck Justin's view of our relationship on the brink of our wedding. So I made the stupid decision to keep it all locked up. I told Marco how whatever happened between us needed to stay in the past. It was a feeble attempt to draw lines, a desperate move to regain some control over a situation that had spiraled out of control. But of course, that was impossible. Our wedding was a real spectacle, all grand and fancy. The kids couldn't stop talking about it for days. It was a happy time, and the memories stuck with us, creating this warm glow around our new family. In the midst of all this, Marco somehow convinced me to keep our secret thing going, promising that Justin would never catch on. I knew it was a dumb move, but I went along with it. Looking back, I can't believe what I was thinking. A few months into our marriage, Marco and I started this affair. After our honeymoon, we slipped into this routine of deceit. The kids loved every bit of the honeymoon, as said it was their second favorite after the wedding. Behind the scenes, though, I was caught up in a mess of lies. I began making up stories to fool Justin. I'd come up with scenarios that supposedly required Marco as a bodyguard, all while secretly heading to hotels under the pretense of needing security when, in reality, it was for some secretive rendezvous. The whole charade went on for months, creating a complex web of lies that was tearing at the seams of our marriage. The guilt and inner struggle got worse each day. Playing this risky game of deception, the trust holding our marriage together started to crumble. The appeal of secrecy and the excitement of forbidden moments clouded my judgment, blinding me to the potential fallout of my actions. While our family looked perfect from the outside with the big wedding and happy honeymoon, underneath, I was a disloyal and deceitful wife lying to my husband. The stark difference between the public image and our private reality created a confusing conflict that I had a hard time making sense of. Life can be unpredictable, you know? That saying about things coming to an end eventually and karma hitting back hard? Well, they hit me like a ton of bricks. So picture this. It's a day after one of my secret hangouts with Marco. We roll up to the house, Marco in the front with the driver, and me in the back as usual. We park, and as I'm about to head inside, a message from Justin pops up on my phone. I open it, and it's a video. I don't play it. Instead, I think I'll just ask Justin about it since we're both home. But here's the crazy part. The moment we step out of the car, bam, Marco gets arrested. Turns out he's slapped with theft charges. I'm standing there in shock because I know Marco wouldn't steal anything. It has to be a setup, but I'm clueless about who would pull such a stunt. The cops fill me in, explaining that some diamonds disappeared from our place, and when they searched Marco's stuff, there they were, carefully hidden. I'm flabbergasted, and there's nothing I can do. The police haul Marco away, but before he goes, I promise him I'll get him a lawyer. Now, here's where it got worse. I'm pretty sure Justin's pulling the strings behind this because he's the only one with enough authority in the house to do that. So I march inside to confront him and get some answers. So, after Marco gets hauled off by the police, I head into the house feeling a mix of shock and confusion. Why on earth would Justin go after Marco like that? I know Marco isn't the stealing type, so there has to be some hidden motive in Justin's move. Justin, my usually sweet and kind husband, is also capable of being remarkably ruthless. Imagine me wandering through the house, noticing that the kids are nowhere to be found. I go on a little hunt for Justin and eventually stumble upon him in the study. I inquire about the kids, and he calmly informs me they're at his parents' place, which isn't unusual. The kids often spend time there. He then asks me if I watched the video he sent, and I admit I haven't. I proceed to question him about why he decided to have Marco arrested. In a departure from his usual straightforwardness, Justin suggests that I watch the video for answers. It catches me off guard because Justin isn't typically cryptic or mysterious. Intrigued and somewhat apprehensive, I pull out my phone to check out the video. As I nervously opened my phone to watch the video, I tapped on it, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. The video starts off a bit dark, but then it becomes clear, revealing a scene that hits me like a ton of bricks. Me kissing Marco from that messed up night at the strip club. I was shocked, lost for words, trying to wrap my head around how Justin got his hands on this video and what exactly he knows. Questions flooded my mind. Where did Justin find this video, and what's the extent of his knowledge? In the midst of my shock, I was frantically brainstorming ways to fix the mess in my marriage. I know divorce might be on the table, but I was desperately hoping there was a way to patch things up. The big unknown is what Justin knows. Does he only know about that one regrettable night at the strip club? Or is he aware of my ongoing thing with Marco? It's a crucial factor, and the realization that Justin might be onto my infidelity sends my mind into overdrive. I was torn between confessing everything and bracing for the consequences, or downplaying the strip club incident as a drunken mistake. If Justin only knows about the night at the strip club, then I could tell him I was just drunk and beg his forgiveness. But if he knows about the secret affair, then there's no saving me. Tears well up in my eyes as Justin, cool and collected, silently watches my emotional turmoil. He shows no emotion on his face, and I wonder what he's thinking. In the middle of my breakdown, recalling the simple advice not to put all your eggs in one basket, I broke into tears and started pleading with Justin. I painted a picture, explaining it was the result of being too drunk, and my friends practically dragged me to the strip club. I tried every trick I could think of, but Justin just stared at me. Then he hit me with a question that made me shut up. Did your friends also push you to take him to hotels too? I was shocked. I came to a brutal realization. I had seriously messed up. There was no turning back. Maybe if I had owned up to the affair when I first saw the video, instead of spinning a yarn about it being a one-time thing, Justin might have considered forgiving me. But the look on his face made it crystal clear. Forgiveness wasn't on the table. He dropped a harsh ultimatum, 30 minutes to pack up and leave. The catch? I could only grab my phone and the clothes on my back. Everything else, he claimed, was his. Staring at the wreckage of my life, the reality hit hard. I depended on him for everything. In a raw admission, Justin confessed to setting up Marco's arrest, ensuring he'd serve time. He said it was a brutal consequence and a stern warning for anyone messing with someone else's marriage. Justin, when angry, was downright ruthless, making any attempt at talking pointless. I did what he asked, just left. The plan was to wait until he calmed down and then come back, beg him to reconsider. But that plan quickly went up in smoke. The moment I walked out, Justin decided to take things up a notch. He sent that damning video to everyone we knew, his folks, my folks, literally everyone. You can picture the joy on his parents' faces, finally thinking they were right about me being a gold digger. Now, broke and without a backup plan, I had to swallow my pride and turn to my disappointed parents, the same people I tried escaping by marrying into Justin's wealthy world. The irony hit hard. I used to depend on Justin for everything, and now that dependency was biting me back. And the video? Turns out my so-called friends were the culprits. On the night I thought no one cared about what I was doing with Marco, they were sneakily recording everything. What's even more messed up? They decided to send that video to Justin after our wedding. The timing didn't make much sense to me. Why wait till after the wedding? But at that point, I didn't care for explanations. Fueled by anger and betrayal, I cut them out of my life for wrecking my marriage. Marco was about to face trial for theft, but in the midst of my personal chaos, I didn't bother visiting him. I had more significant issues on my plate. Did I ever mention that I signed a prenup? Maybe not. I had signed a prenuptial agreement before marrying Justin, a mandatory condition set by his grandfather and parents. It was the one thing we couldn't contest, and that decision came back to haunt me during the divorce. Justin unleashed a legal storm that left me with nothing, absolutely nothing. The courtroom battle was brutal, and I lost custody of the kids. Justin absolutely destroyed me in court. I didn't even get custody of the kids. Because while in the courtroom, yes, the kids were present, with the way they were clinging to Justin, it was obvious they were very attached to him. And also, considering how dead broke I was, it was obvious the judge wouldn't give me the kids. Justin had a means to take care of the children. The judge granted me only weekend visits. We hadn't even been married for a year, and thanks to the prenup, I practically left the courtroom empty-handed. To add insult to injury, the judge didn't mince words about my infidelity with the bodyguard, further deepening my humiliation. Justin's strategic legal moves and the prenup combined to obliterate any hope I had of a fair settlement. The only positive outcome I got was that I didn't need to pay child support. So that's my tale of how I messed up my marriage for a fleeting moment of excitement. Justin never found it in himself to forgive me. Though I get weekend visits with the kids, it's crystal clear they favor their dad. Life feels like a reset. By putting my story out here, I hope someone learns a thing or two, steering clear of the mistakes and pitfalls that tripped me up. Thanks for lending an ear.